here comes Eric Mangini, who's got 3 Super Bowl rings. You know, this was thrown out this morning that Belichick, if you faced a team wearing a white jersey, would have you wear white gloves. And by the way, when McVay lost to Belichick in a Super Bowl, he acknowledged that Bill knew a lot of tricks that in game. And I thought to myself, I could see Belichick going, guys, white gloves. So you were in 3 of these with Bill. We tend to look at stars, but when you have 2 weeks to prepare, Eric, there are a lot of little tricks, right? Like red zone plays by Andy Reid that you can use.
Yeah, I thought it was a great job of coaching by Andy and the offensive staff, especially in the second half. And you saw it in the red zone. They did it twice, both for touchdowns. They motioned the wide receiver in on that short motion. They got the robot call by the DBs because they were comboing it. So the DB looks inside, and then the wide receiver quickly comes back outside, and there's no chance. There's no chance to get it. They do that on the Kadarius Toney play. They do it on the Sky Moore play. And then you come back, and even on the penalty, that was a motion back inside where the receiver whipped back out, and they had the DB. They get the penalty. Those 2 plays and 2 calls right there were huge and were great coaching nuances.
Yeah, I also thought the punt return by Kansas City, I put it in my notes. I just said, that's the game. Now, it didn't end up being it because Jalen Hurts came back. But the Patriots were always so deft, so smart and alert on special teams. Sean Payton, to his credit, said before the game, don't love Philly special teams. Was that always a fear for Belichick? Like, this game's going to be decided by the unit nobody talks about.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much about this Super Bowl, Colin, for Kansas City. You've got a defensive touchdown. You've got a special team, the longest punt return in Super Bowl history by a guy that they pick up in a trade.
Yeah.
And it's a complete team victory. And as opposed to just the magic of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, which both were outstanding. But when you add a defensive score and a special teams play like that sets up a touchdown, you get the subtleties of coaching and the adjustments in the second half by the Kansas City coaching staff. It's just great, not just for this year and for the win, but for the long-term future of the Chiefs.
I had a concern when I heard about how great the Eagles' defensive front was. I kept saying they played with a lead against average quarterbacks. It's amazing how good you look leading 28-7 against Daniel Jones. I'm like, it's going to be different. This is not because the Kansas City Chiefs had sort of this year mastered the short passing game. So I thought the one thing when the game was over is that the Eagles D-line was a complete non-factor to me. Complete non-factor. That to me is it's not being discussed.
Amazing.
Today. It's unbelievable.
It's probably the biggest stat line of the Super Bowl is the fact that Philadelphia didn't have any sacks. That to me is amazing and compelling because look, Kansas City has improved on their offensive line. They did a good job in the running game, but both their tackles have struggled and they've struggled in the playoffs and they've given up pressures. And you've got a quarterback that has limited mobility compared to where he normally is. So I don't know if it's the greatest stat for the Kansas City Chiefs or the worst stat for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I thought there was no chance that Kansas City could hold Philly to 0 sacks.
Yeah. Let's talk about the holding. So my initial reaction is I don't like it. And then, like everything else, eventually you see multiple pieces of film, tape, and then I saw the grab out of the break. And then I was like, oh, yeah, you can't – that out of the break, you can't do that. How do you view it as a coach?
There's always this thought process of let them play in the big games, especially late in the big games. And to me, that's not fair. It benefits one side, but it doesn't benefit the other side. And it was a clear holding. He grabbed the jersey. You can't do that. It was in reaction to the problems that they had with those whip routes earlier in the game.
Yeah.
And you got to make that call. And I understand Philly fans are angry about it, and they may think that it's tic-tacky. But if he hadn't held him, who knows whether or not he would have been in position to catch that ball. You've got to make the call if you feel that it's there and strong enough. And when you watch it on tape, it looks strong enough to make.
Yeah, now Belichick's corners, as you well know, very handsy. But were there moments? I mean, that's kind of like when I think of Belichick's defense, I just think grabbing, slap. They're always slapping, right? I mean,
They changed the rule after the first Super Bowl, Colin, because we beat up the Rams so badly.
So, but did Bill have a feeling? Because the Eagle fan will say, at least be consistent. Like, for instance, Bill has a thing where he doesn't like you reaching for a first down unless it's fourth down, right? Would Bill say, guys, late in games, because I always felt Bill early in games, DBs were slapping, pushing. What was Bill's feeling on that?
Well, here's the saying: we're going to do business as business is being done. And so you go into a game and you've got a scouting report on the officials. You know what they like to call, what they don't like to call. You evaluate the crews. It's a little bit different in the playoffs and the Super Bowl because the crews are combined. But you evaluate the people just like you evaluate players in terms of what their tendencies are. Then you go into the game and you see whether or not they're going to actually call to those tendencies, or are they going to let them play? Are they going to let more aggressive jams at the line of scrimmage? Are they going to let more aggressive holding happen on the offensive line? And then as you see that, you adjust. If they're calling it tight, you pull back. If they're calling it loose, you ramp it up. But it was always a do business as business is being done.
Jalen Hurts, we talked about this. If you took the 6 or 7 most difficult throws in the game, he may have had 5 of them. I thought Mahomes got much better special teams support, run game support. And by the way, that's the more complete game wins Super Bowls. Did you change your perception or view of Jalen Hurts after that performance?
I've really liked Jalen Hurts' maturity over the past year, and you and I have talked about it throughout the course of the season. His perspective on the success that he's had personally, his perspective on the team's success, the fact that he was staying the moment. He's a mobile quarterback who's continually evolving as a passer, which is what you look for, because oftentimes, guys just default back to what they do best and don't develop that other skill set. So I love all those things about him, and I think he's going to continue to grow. What I didn't love yesterday, as good as they were on 3rd and 4th down, remember right before the fumble, they had the 3rd and 1 delay a game, which gets them to 3rd and 6. Otherwise, they're probably going to just quarterback sneak that and get that, and that's huge in the game. And then later in the game, there's I think a 3rd and 9 where they had to delay a game, and there were issues on 3rd down. Those types of things. You could chalk it up to the moment.
Yeah.
But those things I'd love to see him be able to move past sooner rather than later.
Well, we know it's not just number of championships because Bill Russell has 11 and Jordan has 6. We felt that Jordan's artistic flair, his greatness on offense, elevated him above Russell. Nobody would dispute Brady's the GOAT. But in terms of the ability to do many things that Tom couldn't do, Mahomes can. You could argue Mahomes can do anything Tom can do. Tom can't do a lot what Mahomes can do. And I did think watching that second half, GOAT conversation, that's for guys like me, not coaches like you. But the way the game is working, I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like Mahomes. In fact, I know I haven't. Everything he can do. Have you?
He combines a lot of things a lot of great quarterbacks can do. He's got the ability to extend plays where broken plays become big plays. He's able to actually run the ball effectively, and whether it's scrambling for a first down or even some of these RPOs, which is a newer thing to the league. But he's also an incredibly accurate passer, which is the trademark of a lot of guys we talk about, whether it's Manning or Brady or Breeze or guys like that. So the combination of it, to me, puts him in that discussion. But what I really love about his growth, Colin, is he got the big contract. They had to transition to younger players, and he's a force multiplier. He's making players around him better. And that, to me, is the trademark of greatness. And then you see him play in the playoffs injured with a high ankle sprain that usually takes 5 weeks. That's really impressive too.
Yeah, pain tolerance is it counts. Like there's a lot of great players who didn't play. I've heard that from players before. Jason Taylor, Joy's brother, played hurt for a big chunk of his last 5 years, and you would have never known it. And he was hurt all the time.
And it's inspiring. It has an effect on the locker room when you see your best player fight through an injury like that and play at the level that he has. It has a powerful impact on the rest of the locker room and the way that they approach injuries, the way that they approach sacrifices for the team. It's meaningful in a different type of way.
Andy Reid, how long does he coach?
That is a great question. I didn't think there was any chance that he would retire until he started talking about it a little bit. But, this week where he said he had to make a big decision. Look, I don't know many head coaches that have hobbies. I know Andy has a great house on the West Coast that's beautiful. And I know he loves spending time with his family, but it's not like he's probably developed a lot of outside interest besides coaching. And he's got a great quarterback. He's got a bunch of draft picks. He's got a really good salary cap situation and an opportunity to win for a long time. It's got to be a really fun, fulfilling time for him right now. And I hope he coaches for quite a few more years.
Yeah, I mean, this. Belichick had Kraft, he had Brady, he had Dante Scarnecchia. He usually had good cap situations. I was talking to somebody I know the other day, not the name drop, that knew Oprah. And Oprah gave this person advice years ago. If you talk for a living, just keep talking until they won't let you talk. And I feel like if you have Mahomes for a living, you just keep coaching until you're told you can no longer coach Mahomes. You just can't give that up.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of like a golden microphone for an announcer. You got the best situation going.
Eric Mangini, the coach, great seeing you. What a wonderful Sunday, except for one small city on the East Coast. Eric, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.